Hi, I'm Chris and welcome to the Noob Chronicles. I am the noob, I'm not an expert, but this is a channel dedicated to intention, learning, failure, and always hopefully success. In this video, we're going to look at mountain biking, which is one of my ventures this year, and this is specifically on manualing and how and why to get your manualing skills up. Now, I'll be quite honest with you, in July I was doing some wheelie practice, and even back in July, and it's December now, I came down from a wheelie, I did it wrong, and I ended up with a handlebar in the groin injury. It wasn't pretty, swollen and painful, and even now I'm just like, ooh, I wince at the idea of getting my front wheel up off the ground. And I've just got to say that just if you go through this very similar practice session, I was here for 20-30 minutes tops. I really felt immediately more capable with handling some bigger obstacles. As with any video that I'm doing, I'm not the expert, I am the noob who is learning, and I'm simply sharing my learning experience. What I'd like you to take away from this video is that in just a half hour of dedicated manual practice, I went from this nervous guy trying to get a bit comfortable with my front wheel coming off the ground to this guy who is not rocketing along a trail on the back wheel for 500 yards and not taking on some of the biggest obstacles. But you can see that this new version of Chris is able to deal with a new obstacle that you might find on the single track. So a manual is when you're not pedaling, but what you're doing is bringing up the front wheel of the bike. And the reason why this is useful is it's not so that you can be a young stallion rocketing along the road for a mile on just your back wheel. I admire that skill, I certainly don't have it, but you're not going to take on a single track on your back wheel. But there is a real purpose to manualing. The idea is that you can start to overcome some of those intermediate, slightly bigger obstacles. So for example, if you were rocketing along the single track and you saw a log that was just big enough that you thought, if my front wheel hits that, I'm going over the handlebars, then well, you're probably right. Now, a lot of the time the bike can really take care of a lot of bumps, but the way that the manual works is that if the obstacle is here and you lift up your front wheel, the back wheel is going to make contact with that, start to roll over. What then happens is that your front wheel comes down back onto the track and you roll on your merry way. Now that's an awesome way to do it. The alternative, and just forgive me for using my hands for this, is to go and try and roll over it and just lighten your wheel a bit maybe. But if you hit that dead on, you're probably going to go like that, and that's how you face plant. The other one is that if you're like really amazing, you might think, oh, I'll just bunny hop that. Now, while bunny hop seems quite cool, obviously at speed, it's not really recommended by a lot of channels that I use for research. Generally, they'll always say, don't bunny hop it, manual it. And I suppose the reason for that is that when you're bunny hopping, you are slightly losing control, you're losing traction and stability on the track, you're losing contact with both wheels when you don't necessarily have to, and I guess you really just have to think, why do that? So manualing is really quite important, and it's going to start helping us as noobs get over those slightly bigger than normal bumps. For example, if you saw a log blocking the single track, I don't know about you, but as a noob, I would generally think that I have to go around that. I'm certainly not confident enough to bunny hop it, but it turns out that, as you can see here, a manual, even a badly implemented one like what I'm doing there, is going to help you just overcome that problem without losing speed, stability, and it turns out without a groin injury. I'm now able to maintain some speed, perform this simple maneuver, and go on my merry way. And so, as you can see, half-hour dedicated practice takes you from this to this. And that's what it's about. For better and improved form, go and see some other videos, obviously, and I'll put links below to some of the ones that really helped me. But if you want to see the highlights of my session, then just watch the rest of this video and you'll see that I'm not doing anything brilliant. I'm not a fantastically quick learner. It's actually really rather simple. So it all started after I filmed my Howden dark blue trail video, which you can now find on my channel. So as you can see, my butt looks like I had a curry the night before and an accident today. But the whole thing was that I thought, I've got half an hour, I'm just gonna find a bit of space and have a go at this manualing malarkey. So as you can see, at first I'm very basic. I'm just trying to get that front wheel off the ground. So the technique of the manual is not actually to push down with your arms and then pull the bike up with your arms. So it's not about compressing the front suspension and then springing up using your arms. It's actually more that you are holding the handlebars which are connected to the front wheel, obviously, and as you shift your butt down and back, which is taking that center of balance away from the middle of the bike and over and past the rear axle of the rear wheel, you're upsetting the balance of the bike, much like on a seesaw if you play with leverage, and it's simply taking the weight over that rear axle, and it lifts the front wheel. The way that it lifts the front wheel is simply that you're holding onto the handlebars. So it's not that you're pulling up with your arms, you simply have to hold onto the handlebars, shove your butt down and back, and that's going to upset that balance over that rear axle and lift the front wheel. So as you can see on this, really, I don't think I'm going down as much as I need to. I'm just chucking my butt back like a baboon, a brown butted baboon, but you can see it's working. I'm feeling that front wheel come up and I'm starting to get used to that. What we're looking for now is really for me to get better at putting my butt down and back, and so that's what you really want to constantly think about when you're trying this. Down, back, down, back. It's not push and pull, it's down and back, and you'll just feel that balance just tip towards the back, and that's the daunting part. But stick with it. There are some moments where I start to roll progressively further on the back wheel. Now that is the moment where obviously if you lift the front wheel and then you're rolling for a period of time, that's when you clear the obstacle with the front wheel, and the obstacle ends up making contact with the rear wheel, which rolls over it, essentially bringing the nose back down. And so that's what we're looking for. So getting myself a little bit of a stick. This is not obviously the biggest obstacle, and we see stuff way bigger than this on trails, but this was more about me finding a reference point so that I could start getting used to lifting that wheel and taking the back wheel to travel over the obstacle. And that's just about timing. This is not a big obstacle, it's not scary, and honestly you don't feel it, and so it's incredible how much our mind can make us think that we're going to hit it with the back wheel and it'll upset our balance. It's rubbish. I was an idiot. After repeating it lots and lots, I went and got a bit of a bigger chunk that I thought this might replicate more of a route that might, knock me a bit on the bike. And I've got to say, again, with the manual maneuver, it was nothing. The bike, one guy on the channel said, the bike just eats it up, and it's so true. So I went to look for a bigger challenge, and this one was a little bit too big, but my search continued, and eventually I found what I was looking for. So I set up a rather dramatic camera shot because sink or swim, I was going to get this on video and looking as cool as I could. Now I've got to admit, I was a little bit nervous at this point. I thought, okay, I'm okay with the manual. Again, it's not the best implemented one, and I'm not the best representative of form, but I'm being effective enough. I know my front wheel will clear the obstacle, my back wheel will meet the obstacle, and then I'll just come clattering down onto the ground and ride away. I'm starting to get comfortable with that, but I have to admit that with a bit more of a chunky log, I was thinking like, what will happen? Will the bike stop? Will I go over the bars? Will I slam into the bars? And your newbie mind can get anxious, or at least mine does. But as you can see, nothing happened. Nothing happened but me rolling away, and there really was nothing dramatic. Now again, to look at this log and imagine it in the middle of a single track, as far as I'm concerned, you would think that you have to either be a hotshot and bunny hop over it, or you would have to go around it, or at least slow down and bump over it. You're like a kid getting up a curb. And as it turns out, with the manual maneuver, even for a rookie like myself, even for a noob, and even with a badly implemented manual where I really need to start getting used to that balance point and implementing it more effectively, you can see that I'm overcoming that obstacle. I've started to pile a few more things into there just so that I can, start thinking, what if it was a log with a few roots around, and again, the bike eats it up. The maneuver is really safe, it's really easy to implement. I know for a fact now that if I saw a log of this kind of size in the middle of the single track, I wouldn't hesitate. I'd feel very comfortable with it. There's really something to be said about slowing things down, having a dedicated practice and learning why everything works. And now I understand why. You know, if you hit something with the front wheel, you're going that way. If you lift that front wheel and the back wheel hits the obstacle, nothing happens. It just rolls and the nose comes down and you woohoo and off you go. And that's it. So I have no doubt that my manuals will improve. I have no doubt that I'll be able to find that balance point when I get my butt in the right place, so that I can have a longer period of time rolling on my back wheel for whatever reason that might be necessary. And I know that the bunny hop comes from a manual, so you manual and then compress the bike in the pedals and jump up, and that's useful for bigger logs. Now I'm not there yet, but I've certainly got a rookie version of the manual to play with now. So I hope you found that helpful, and I hope it encourages you to get out there and give yourself 20-30 minutes dedicated practice on the manual. Again, I'm not the best example of form and theory, but you can certainly see my learning experience and how that has benefited me, and I hope that encourages you to do the same. Get on out there and just give yourself a bit of dedicated practice for 20 minutes. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you hit subscribe and look out for any of the future videos I've got coming soon. Thank you.